For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mrs. Olette, but I feel like most of us have all met now. Hopefully you're coming to listen to the My Career, My Future presentation featuring Alton Public Works. Today we have the Director of Alton Public Works, which is Scott Kinman, and then we have Assistant Director and Water Superintendent Courtney Mitchell. They are both alumni of Kingswood, and they have some valuable information to share with you. So listen, if you have any questions, please ask, and hopefully we'll get some good stuff out of this.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. So I'm Scott Kinman. I'm the Public Works Director. This gives you a little bit of info on me. I don't want to dwell too long on that, but I am a 1983 graduate, okay, back long time ago. From Kingswood. I also was part of the construction trades group here as well. Built a home actually here in Wolfeboro when I was in the construction trades group, which was an awesome program. Vocational English, that was me. Loved it, okay. But I wanted to kind of share with you just a little bit of information about me. I've had quite a diverse 35-year career in municipal work. And that work actually brought me not only from being a graduate, high school graduate, to then trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. And I ended up getting very interested in actually in law enforcement. I started out as a police dispatcher, and then I became a police officer. And I was a police officer for 24 years and did that here in Carroll County. Most of my career was in Wolfeboro, 20 years as a police officer there. And the last 11 years, I was actually the police chief. So, and when I retired in 2009, I became the elected road agent, public works director in Wolfeboro, and I was there for 7 years. And I decided, as I had progressed through my now taking courses, which were basically day courses that I took for training, not only in my public works career, where I became an advanced master road scholar, which is all programs that are put on by UNH at what they call the Technology Transfer Center, which is very similar to what you have here as far as your vocational center here. It is basically a training center for all public works employees. Water employees also go to some of that training as well, but we have quite a diverse training there for folks that want to be involved in public works. So I've actually been an instructor for them now for several years. I actually contract to them and do that as well. And I did 5 years as a town administrator. So I took more coursework, once again, going to day courses here and there, and I actually became certified as a public manager. So it took a long time. I've been doing this for 35 years, so when you think about it, that's a lot of different one-day classes, okay? I was a student that really wanted to come in and maybe have one of these type of classes. I was not a student that felt that I could endure long durations of lots of classes for maybe a whole semester or maybe a whole year. So I was not somebody that felt to be college bound. I wanted to get what I could, and I wanted to apply it right then and there. So just to give you a little bit about what my background was. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney, because now I'm in Alton, and we're building a public works department, and we're kind of doing that together. So I'm going to turn it over to Courtney, and she's going to tell you, because she's also a Kingswood alumni as well.
Okay, thanks for having me, guys. So I'm a 99 alumni from Kingswood. I kind of have not as straight a path as Scott does into my career choice, but after I graduated from Kingswood, I went to Keene State College. Basically, my path was around sports. I was the soccer goalie, 4 years varsity here. And I ended up going to Keene State to play Division III soccer. Wanted to get into something related in that field. I was going to be an athletic trainer, and found out upon going to school that to play a sport and be an athletic trainer was a very difficult thing to accomplish. So I decided to indulge in becoming physical education. About 2 years into the program, maybe my third year, I decided that wasn't anything that I wanted to do anymore. I was only 17 years old my freshman year, had no idea, but I love soccer. So I guess you could probably say I went to school to play soccer and get some sort of formal education on the side. When I went to Keene State, I needed to find something else to do. So there was a program called Safety Studies, which is basically all of your OSHA-related things. So, you know, when somebody gets hurt at your establishment or your employment, these are the people that come in and kind of enforce any actions and find the fault and what happened and try to correct it. I graduated. I had the bachelor's in safety studies and started applying to jobs. So when you graduate from when I graduated, now 20 years ago, you had 6 months to kind of find your calling, and then your student loan grace period wiped out, and you needed to start paying those things back. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I went into a consulting firm to kind of test field-related studies for asbestos removal and lead abatement and mold abatement. And they were going to take me on full-time, and what happened was they were a small firm, more family-owned, and when they didn't get a contract that they needed, they'd let me go that day. So I needed to find something else. I found a little ad in the paper. There was a place to start testing water. They were looking for a lab technician, so I started working there. And the place ended up going under. So there again, I was 3 years into testing water and still no career opportunities out there. I can remember like it was yesterday, my husband says to me, there's a job in the paper to be a water operator with a huge firm in New Hampshire, one of the biggest water utilities in the state. Why don't you apply? So I did. 10 years later, I started from the bottom of it and just started thinking about, not being in the holes, changing out meters, getting dirty all the time, see if I could get, more involved with the management side. I became the water and sewer superintendent for the town of Meredith in 2016. A grade 3 water treatment, grade 3 distribution operator. The highest in the state you can go is grade 4. So and I'm actually taking that test on Friday, so that would enable me to be able to run any water treatment plant or distribution system in New Hampshire, like Nashua, Portsmouth, your big cities, Manchester. So that's kind of, I left Meredith. To save you the boring details, I was a commissioner for the town of Alton. They needed an operator, and I came over there, and I've been there since. So now we're indulging into the public works, which is unknown. I didn't do a lot of road work, but I know how to dig them up and replace pipes in the road. So now I got to learn, the details as far as maintaining them and making them proper. So that's kind of my road that I took. It was, I guess I kind of just fell into it. So, but I did have the college. It's not unheard of for people to go to school and do nothing in the field that they went for. So I guess, keep your options open because there's plenty of possibilities there, and we're going to tell you about it in our presentation. So I'll get that started.
So Courtney mentioned that she doesn't use really in a full-time capacity her field of studies, which, as you saw up there, she mentioned to you about the OSHA and about doing safety studies. So right now the town of Alton is actually going through a Department of Labor safety review, for an example. So every town, and actually probably they have here for the school district and at the school, they have a joint loss management committee actually to prevent people from becoming injured in the workplace, employees and also the people that they serve. So for an example, Courtney, because of her background, she is now undertaken that chair of that committee and helping us work through that process. So there's always little tidbits of your education that you end up using on that light. So one might ask, why are we doing a road show? Why are we coming out and talking about careers and public works? Why are we talking to young people and that type of thing? As you probably, if you watch the news, you look on social media, there's all kinds of different jobs out there that are open, and I have to tell you that the trades are starving for young people to come and enter the trades. Okay, I'm becoming a dinosaur in the trades. We're looking for nice young blood that has energy, that has ideas, to look in many of these different areas of public works and in the field of public works that's actually out there. I mean, there's everything that we actually have. One might say, well, what type of jobs do you actually have in public works? And when we talk about public works, we talk about construction trades. So in other words, as part of public works, we have the building group there that takes care of all of our town buildings. They do improvements to those buildings. They construct structures and/or even if it's an area, a bathhouse, or they rebuild those types of things. So there's all kinds of different trades that way. Electrical, plumbing that ends up being done. Courtney's group there, they do actual plumbing, but it's actually out in the street and from the curb stop out on that side of it. So they're dealing with water and doing all those types of things. And she'll tell you a little bit about what happens in her field and what things that they have to do because it is diverse. Courtney's going to hand out a little bit here. It kind of gives you a little bit of a handout as to the different types of jobs that are available in public works out there. We're a small organization as far as that goes. Courtney actually has herself and she'll have 3 other people in the actual water department itself. Highway department, for an example, has with our mechanical division. So Public Works also has mechanical divisions. So there's a lot of different things that we end up doing. And this slide here really does kind of stimulate to have you understand that it's not just about being a truck driver, it's not just always about being a laborer, but basically it gets you to think outside the box. Are you a planner? Are you a designer? Do you like to have adventures? I have to tell you that that's what I really enjoy about Public Works is that every day is different. It doesn't make any difference. Sometimes Mother Nature deals us a set of cards on a daily basis that is an adventure. Believe me, snowstorms are an adventure. Windstorms, hurricanes, those types of things. In a water leak, for an example, 9 o'clock last night, Courtney's faced with a water leak. And first thing this morning, at 6:30 this morning, I'm finding her and her crew getting assembled, and they're all down there looking at where the water leak is and strategizing where that's going to, happen. So there's a lot of different things that end up happening that really get you to think outside the box. It's not a mundane type of job. It does have a lot of different things that you end up becoming stimulated by because there's new activities happening all the time.
Okay, so the next slide are, kind of indulging a little bit more in what careers are available in Public Works. There is a huge array of different things. You're not always going to be in a hole getting dirty or plowing snow. There's the administration portion, there's construction management, emergency management, engineering and technology, which is a huge growing field, especially for us. We're faced with it every single day. Facilities, grounds, and forestry, fleet services, so working on, plow trucks, heavy equipment, public rights-of-way, solid waste, transportation, and water and sewer. So I'm going to touch base on every one of them briefly.
So we have in Alton, for an example, we have 2 mechanics. We have a lead mechanic and then his assistant. They work full-time basically doing that. They do support other services, like if in fact we have a snowstorm, they do help out with plowing and doing those things there, but basically they're doing mechanical work. In that mechanical work, for an example, right now we have a project in the shop that we wanted to build our own shoulder machine. In other words, the gravel shoulders that are on roads, they deteriorate over time, and we're actually, they're fabricating and building a shoulder machine that'll actually ride in the back end of a dump truck and be able to put gravel out and level it off on the shoulders. And they're designing that and building that, welding and putting that all together, and We get that all done and fabricated. Hopefully that'll save us a lot of time and labor on that side of it. That way, any construction trades folks? All right, great. So, buildings and grounds and maintenance group that we actually have, they do a ton of different things there where they're Joe Handyman, ultimately well-rounded, do a lot of different things as far as their building that they end up doing. They build structures over, heating and cooling systems. They renovate. They did the bathrooms down in Alton Bay. There's public restrooms that are down there that are open. They totally built that whole facility, and then they do a lot of renovations inside the building as well. So.
All right, so the administration and management portion is kind of one of the hats that Scott and I wear, but there's tons of careers. The handouts that you have kind of go along with the slides. They're going to break down what kind of different varieties of jobs fall under that category. And if you look at it, it will tell you what the pay is. I mean, because everybody wants to know, what am I going to get paid? What's the paycheck at the end of the day? And what kind of training you need. Some of these positions you can take on right from high school. No experience besides what your high school diploma gave you. Some of them you just need some technical training, like Scott talked about. He got that along the way. And some of them you'll need that college degree, whether it's a bachelor's, associate's, or even your master's degree. So that's going to tell you, kind of give you a guideline as to what you're looking at if you want to do a certain area of study and where that kind of lines up. The administration and management, Scott and I are constantly, we're doing the mundane things like payroll, handling vacation, and the other thing we're doing is, we're handling permits through New Hampshire DES, doing project management, overseeing huge construction companies. So that's kind of where the administration and management area focus on, and it's really important in the community. You need somebody to take on those projects and be a leader, and make sure they get done, and keep the dollar signs at the end of the project, following the budget.
Let me ask a question, see if I can get a little bit of feedback from those young minds out there. So what do you see in a leader? When you think of somebody who's a leader, what do you see?
Someone you can trust.
Somebody you can trust, yeah. Any other examples of a leader that you would like to see if you were going to work for somebody? Confident, yeah. Yeah, and there's certainly paying attention and certainly giving you that feedback and example. Yes.
If they're a leader in a certain field, I'd want them to at least have like 1 or 2 years of experience, because if you don't have any experience in that field, then you're just throwing a guy in a manager position or something like that and hoping everything works out.
Right. Yes. I'm sorry?
Honesty.
Honesty, yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of an example. So over my career, certainly, once again, I've kind of explained to you that I've kind of been, as Courtney has, we've worked from the ground up in any position in which we've actually held. So we've actually been there and done that. And I have to tell you that in my experience, that's been helpful. It's easier for me to follow somebody and work with somebody if in fact they've already done that. I'll give you an example. When I first came to Alton, and even when I knew Courtney in Meredith, she, even as a supervisor and as a boss, okay, in charge of a division, she was actually down there, and she was doing the work alongside with other workers. And then she would step back and she would let them go ahead and apply and do, and she would be there to assist and make sure it was done properly, of course, as a supervisor or a leader would, but she was actually right down in there and actually doing that. And then right there, number one thing, that honesty and integrity in the field and being able to make sure that you're doing that with your staff and your employees is critically important to have that. So those are the things that you're looking for. So we want to instill that upon you as well, okay, as young people coming into the field, to have that honesty, okay? and to be able to have that integrity, and then also be willing to learn and listen, and then be able to apply it and try it. Okay? You don't know until you try that way.
Just to brush on that subject, you know, when I said I went to college, one of my biggest fears, I got my internship at Anheuser-Busch. I was the safety and health inspector. Zero confidence. I learned everything I needed to know in a book. But then it became the point where I had to go in there and start telling people what to do. I didn't have that. I had no idea what they were doing. Some of these people that worked in the construction, manufacturing plant had been doing things a certain way for 23 years. And now it was my job to go down there and tell them what they were doing wrong and how to fix it. And I don't know if you guys have ever been faced of, you know, telling somebody that has a little bit of authority how to do something and not really having the knowledge behind you or the experience to tell them, you know, to stand up for yourself and your reasoning why. That was very hard for me. So I thought it was very important from where I came from and my personality to start from the bottom and work my way up. And I can tell you to this day, I still have things that I don't know the answer, and that's okay. Me and my team, that we have enough confidence in each other that we work through the problems, and at the end of the day, we achieve it. But you know, it's okay to not know that answer and know when to speak up about a certain thing. And sometimes the best way of gaining that knowledge is to put your hands to work. So I just wanted to make sure, instill that upon you, because it's tough when you're out and now it's time to start explaining the do's and don'ts, and you don't really know what they are. So the next one is construction management, and this is a lot like the administration. Sometimes you wear a couple different hats. It's not just I'm the builder or I'm the water superintendent. There's other layers that you fall under. So the construction management, these are some actual slides of work that Scott and I, with our crews, have performed. The first one is our brand new salt shed that him and his crew built from the ground up. I mean, they did everything from the site work to putting the tarps over it and putting it to work. And this water line project here, that's a hydrant T. That was a project that me and my crew oversaw. So we were there, we helped along, but you know, we were kind of managing that project. The other slide is, you know, there's a lot of infrastructure work that we're required to, you know, start mapping, implementing the internet technology part of it, which is a whole different level of construction management. So those are all different things that you can kind of get your hands into with the construction management side of it. And this is another hat that Scott and I both wear. This is the emergency management side of our job. Scott can speak on it because he knows more about it, but just recently he spoke at the state level to support Public Works employees being recognized as first responders, because we really are. We may not be fighting fires, but as you can see in the slides, that is his Public Works Department manning another snowstorm this year. Snow and ice was, you know, something that they needed to constantly battle with, and it was usually on a holiday and a weekend. Mother Nature was not fair to them this year. And the other one is actually me and my foreman repairing a 6-inch water main that broke right at lake level, about 3 feet from Lake Winnipesaukee. That was a very complex dig. It took many, many hours. I actually, you know, I had to leave the mother-son dance to go. You know, I made plans for the mother-son dance, responded to a water leak, ran home, got in a dress, took my son to the mother-son dance, and right back to the leak again. So, you know, if that's not emergency management, I don't know what is. So that's one of the hats that we wear. Hopefully, maybe you'll only have to wear one hat, whatever career path you choose, but they overlap a lot, so, which is great, because the knowledge is endless. Now the engineering and technology part. Another thing that we're faced with in our career, you know, you got the internet and technology part. Cybersecurity is a huge threat right now, especially water and sewer facilities. And then we have GIS and asset management that a lot of our job, we need to start implementing an asset management program and, you know, mapping to receive certain grants. You know, if you work for a municipality, they love grants. They love, you know, free money coming to help them manage their town at a cheaper rate. So a lot of these state and federal agencies are requiring us to map our assets. So the bottom picture there is actually a map of water mains and sewer mains. And it's a pretty neat thing. I don't know a lot about it. I know enough to get me in trouble because I'm right in the era that it's still brand new. But we actually have a posting for a job intern to come in and start collecting some of that data for us and kind of teach everybody how to deal with the struggles and navigate through the asset management and GIS programs. So there's endless opportunities with this subject, the engineering and technology part.
As if in fact you are in a high school program, you have some background on GIS, any of that type of background, certainly we would encourage you to certainly check the ad out online, and if that's something that you feel like, hey, I'd like to just give this a try. So what this will end up doing, this grant that we actually have now to track our assets for under a asset management grant through the Department of Environmental Services, is we're going to actually go in Alton and we're going to go to every culvert, which is all pipes that go underneath the roadways, and all of our structures, our drainage, stormwater drainage structures, and GPS mark all those points and do a basic condition assessment and photograph. So basically it'd be collecting raw data in the field and then bringing that back and then inputting it into well actually hopefully we're going to do it in the field, to the ArcGIS format. And then that will then get uploaded into our database that we actually have, so we can then track it. Every time we work on that asset, we'll be documenting that and adding that to it. So I would encourage you that if you have aspirations to do that type of a project, you know, to certainly think about that and look that up or reach out to us, you know, because there's always, right now there is an abundance of these types of internships that are actually out there. So just keep that in mind.
Would that be only for the summer?
Yeah, so it's a summer, it would be a summer gig as I call it. So it's like for 6 weeks roughly for the summertime, 40 hours a week. So it's a full-time thing, you know, Monday through Friday type of setup, where they would come in, you'd be supplied with a tablet to go out and collect the data. We're trying to hopefully get 2 people, whether we're kind of looking at maybe partnering the folks up and having them go out, or do it individually, or work with one of our staff members in order to collect that data, doing that. So, so I mean, I'll talk a little bit. This is facilities and grounds. So to give you a couple of projects on that, is that, you know, we've got a couple different projects. Like this is the old train station that's actually down. It's now the Alton Bay Community Center. So that was one of the projects that we undertook there, which that's a historic building, and it needed to be reshingled. So we don't always get involved in doing the actual physical work, is that we manage the job. In other words, we manage the job under the, you know, purview of looking at construction management, where we actually hire in and put out to bid a contract for re-roofing, and then we manage that with that contractor and oversee that, make sure that they are actually doing what is necessary. In other words, stripping the shingles, making sure it gets re-shingled, and then put into operation. You have a picture of a cemetery here. We also handle the cemeteries in town, not only taking care of burials and then doing the perpetual care for cemeteries as part of that grounds and maintenance division has a cemetery division with it. But like right now, they're involved in looking at and constructing and enlarging the cemetery. So there's a large project that will be adjacent to the current town cemetery to enlarge that and construct it. So we're working on that as well. So there's so many different things that you get involved in. I mean, every day I'm looking at different plans for different things that are going on. Today, for an example, my mechanics came in and said, The trailer, we have a 30, I think it's a 30-ton trailer now. It's due to be replaced. We're going to downsize our excavator. We have an excavator. We're going to downsize that excavator, so we're going to be looking at a 21-ton trailer. So that needs to go out to bid. So I need to put together the bid specifications, get it out there so we can collect prices on the trailers on that side. So this leads right into the whole fleet services side. So as you can imagine, every town has a pretty good number of different vehicles they have. Like here in Wolfeboro, you know, at the town garage up there, they have a mechanical division there as well. They take care of all the town equipment. And in Alton, same situation. As I mentioned, we have the mechanics. They do that as well. Work orders are generated from the police department. If they have a cruiser that needs to have new tires put on it, needs to have a brake job, any of those type of maintenance items, those are sent up by a work order. And then the mechanics go and they retrieve the vehicle, and then they go ahead and perform the services to it. So there's quite a bit to it.
So usually my pipeline is never in a good area. It's underneath the road. It's not above ground. Nobody can see it. And we deal with things such as homeowners and landowners, the state right away. We need permission from all of these people to dig and access our pipeline. So, you know, from any given day, I'm dealing with electrical contractors for underground power, above ground power, sidewalks, telecommunications. In Meredith, there was a lot of underground telephone lines. Natural gas, we don't have that where we are, but you know, in the bigger cities and towns, we have to deal with that. You know, we have to deal with dig safe. We have to, every time we excavate more than a foot in the ground, we have to call them, and they kind of send out the utilities and the different vendors there that might be involved in the area to mark that out so we can dig safely and don't cause any property damage or infrastructure damage or get hurt. So it's something we deal with on a daily basis. People like Dig Safe, they go out, and that is their job. They go out and locate utilities all day long. So they get all kinds of different arrays that they encounter in different towns. Solid waste, everyone, I think you guys have your own transfer station here. Alton has a recycling facility. This is huge with regulations federally, state. We have to meet different guidelines as far as the disposal of trash and waste, how to handle it, and this is what this division does. Usually at our facility, we have a solid waste manager. They conduct a thing called Household Hazardous Waste Day, which is where you're taking things other than your normal trash and disposing it at a better rate for, you know, it would cost townspeople a lot of money to take care of that recyclables and hazardous waste. So, you know, that's one thing. And we're actually hiring for the solid waste division right now. They have a little bit trickier schedule than, say, Scott and I. They, you know, depending on dump times, they're open. They're not usually your Monday through Friday job, depending on where you are. So they're more likely to have like a Thursday to Monday or Friday to Tuesday type schedule, which is great. You know, if you're a snowmobiler, like our solid waste supervisor, he loves going snowmobiling Monday through Thursday because the dump's closed and the trails are great. So there's some benefits of that. This is my division, the water and sewer part. So water, obviously, it's not getting any cleaner. It's a natural resource that we need to protect. So in our division, we do everything having to do with water. And we don't do wastewater where I'm at now, but when I was in Meredith, we had a sewer collection system where you basically take wastewater and you recycle it into reusing that resource. The water division, it's endless what you can do. I mean, you don't need to be out changing meters every day, like I said. You can be doing the planning part of it, the assets, just doing permitting. If you were to work for the state, the pages of jobs that are out there for water and wastewater are absolutely endless. And the different levels that you can encounter are endless. I mean, I started, when I started with water, I was making $14 an hour. Now, I mean, people some operators are making $26, $28 an hour right out the gate. So, and we're required to get continuing education credits once you become licensed. So you're always learning. You're required to take classes and keep up with your license. You don't have to retest, but you do have to get those credits. So you're always learning about new things in the water field. And the regulations are always changing. What's that?
Do you get to take those classes like while you're working?
Yep. So usually how it works is when you get your license, your employer would pay for your continuing education. And New Hampshire Water Works, American Water Works, Granite State Rural Water Association, all those people hold classes. You could go out and meet other operators to, view different facilities, see what they do, and constantly keep up with the changing regulations. I mean, they're changing daily, so there's a lot to learn with that. And one of the most important things that I know young people care about is the benefits. And when we talk about benefits, what do I get for time off? What kind of incentives do you have? When you work for a municipality, we've got all kinds. You got paid sick days, vacation days, all kinds of other time off. I mean, we have bonus days, personal days, health and dental insurance, discounts, gym memberships, retirement. We're all members of the New Hampshire retirement system. When you work for the public works sector, you're going to be in a different tier, and then police and fire have a different one, where you and your employer pay into you pay it to the retirement. I mean, paid tuition. We do not discourage anyone to, take on more learning opportunities. So we offer tuition reimbursement, flexible work schedules. I mean, during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time working from home. I know Scott attended a lot of meetings via Zoom. There were times when the school was canceled that my son was sitting in the backseat of my truck with a hotspot while I was fixing a water main break. So I had the luxury to be able to do that, and everybody got everything they needed to get done. It was tricky, but if I did something else for a living, I may not have had that luxury. Paid maternity and parental leave. Some municipalities have stock options. I haven't had the luxury to be a part of it.
I know we're getting pretty close to the bell ringing, so does anybody have any questions before we head out? I would encourage you that if you've taken this education path that you've done here at Kingswood and through the vocational center, that if you need to know more about it, I would encourage you to either reach out, look on the website. American Public Works Association, New Hampshire Public Works Association has a lot of information out there about different things that are happening throughout the country, and I would certainly encourage you to reach out. Look for these jobs. There's lots of jobs that are being offered, even for seasonal work that is coming up for the summer. Grounds and maintenance is looking for positions up there, so certainly reach out. We've got full-time positions, we have part-time seasonal positions, so we'd encourage you to if it's something that you're interested in, you want to kind of test drive it, love to have you come on board, or if you have any questions, you can certainly always reach out. Thank you very much for coming.